We just went
Oh,
live.
good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Daily Whatever. I'm Dana Dubois.
I'm
Good morning.
Lawrence Winnerman. Hello, hello, welcome.
I have moved my center of operations for the day to a top secret location, Lawrence. I'm on a mission,
Yeah,
secret spy mission to my
in your
backyard.
garden.
Yes, in my garden. Oh, that sounds so much nicer than backyard, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Here I am in the garden.
Are you sitting in the garden?
I am sitting in the garden because my child and her best friend had a sleepover last night and they are asleep on the couches down there. And I was like, I really don't think I should have a podcast. Like that, the dog, I'm sure, has already been keeping them awake a bit this morning. I've heard her. So why make it worse by political content blaring in their ears? Hi, Karen. I'm doing pretty well this morning. How are you? It's reminding me I need to come over here and join the chat. Um, what are you
Karen
laughing
says,
at?
and I'm Karen Marie Shelton. Yes, Karen is our honorary.
For sure. Oh, here come all the folks joining. Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
Mm. Lawrence, I woke up this morning and rolled over in bed and did the phone check as always, and I saw all of these he's dead um rumors that
Alas, it is not true. I know. I did the same thing. I woke up, I saw that Trump is dead was trending on Twitter and Blue Sky and everywhere. And I was like, oh my God, yes, please. And no, nope. The White House has confirmed he's fine. Fine. They
oh,
released
but
a picture of him golfing. Of course, he was golfing, and he appears alive, and
but
not
are
in
you
a Weekend at
sure?
Bernie's kind of way.
Are you sure it was a picture? I mean, he golfs all the time. Was he holding up like a newspaper with today's date on it, you know?
Yeah, until facts on the ground prove otherwise, I'm going to temper my excitement. And relish the idea that when the day truly comes, which it is soon, we hope that it is going to be a fucking celebration. And I think MAGA is going to be shocked to their core at how much the entire world is going to celebrate this man's death.
Do you think that they're going to really know? Because do you think that they're really going to know because of the media hole they live in? Are they going to be aware that the whole world is celebrating? I think they're just going to be seeing tribute after tribute, and the greatest leader who's ever lived. Uh, Okay, hold on one second. Our guest is having some trouble joining. So,
Oh, well, I
uh,
haven't
le-
invited her yet.
well, she says she can't see it. She's not in the live yet. Yeah, let me just send her a quick message. Lawrence, here's a thought while I'm sending this message. We've been like coming up with things to do at each decile for the pledge drive, which we're at 89, you guys, 89.
Yeah, 89.
Um, What are we gonna? I'm even scared to say his name and the word dead because I don't want the FBI coming after me. But what are we going to? Oh, there she is. What are we gonna do when it actually happens? I feel like we need something like outrageously raucous, something that rises to the occasion of how we will feel when it happens.
Stephanie, I think I'm here now. Help me. I'm old. Stephanie, I'm sending the invite right now. So click accept when ready.
Our
Um,
publication is called Gen XE, Stephanie. We're all old, or at least not young.
we're not old. I'm 55. I'm not old.
I'm a very youthful 55 myself.
Right, right.
Mm.
Good morning, Nick. Good morning, everybody.
It's this steady diet of caffeine and sleep deprivation that keeps my skin so youthful. Why do you ask? But seriously, what is everyone going to do? Because I, again, I'm like hesitating to even talk about this. FBI, please don't come onto our podcast. But like, it has to be coming soon.
Yeah,
Look at
he's
him.
79. He's clearly in poor health. There are all kinds of indicators that,
Yeah.
mentally and physically, he's not long for this world. I honestly, I think I might just go old school, and when I hear, I'm just going to go outside with a like pots and pans and bang them together. Stephanie, hello.
Hi,
Hey,
Stephanie. Can you hear
We're
us
talking
okay?
about what we're
I
going to do
can.
with.
Can you hear me?
We
Can you
can.
hear me? Okay. Okay. Thank God. I never don't have Mercury's like constantly in retrograde when it comes to me trying to join things. So I just anticipated this happening.
You've come to the right place. We all know what that means, and here at Gen Xe, we're all big on Mercury retrograde. So,
Yes.
yeah,
Is Mercury in retrograde right now? I don't actually even
It's
know. I feel
it
like it's
it's not. It just left, but I have like 7 other planets that are retrograding. So I just I'm in a place of retrograde
you're
lately.
sort of
in your
like
birth chart, because there are a lot of retrogrades going on right now. But in your birth chart, that actually isn't bad, Stephanie. That means you've got a lot of past life stuff.
Y-
That
yes, in my chart and also currently, like yeah.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
I'm
no,
just
like
having a
Pluto's
really fun
retrograde.
time.
Yeah, yeah.
oh my gosh.
We could talk about this too. That'll be fun.
Excellent.
Um,
No, it's hard to find people who are down with it. Like
Yeah,
they're
oh
like,
yeah.
oh, that's all made up. I'm like, fuck you. Don't you believe that the moon controls the tides? Well, yeah. Like they can't make the leap to how the planetary energy could possibly affect anything beyond the tides. Yeah.
right.
And
Isn't it at least
reproduction.
possible that we haven't
Oh,
discovered yet the means by which the planetary arrangements actually impact us? Like, we could still figure out the way that works. And plus, all of the original astronomers were astrologers trying to like figure out the meaning of the stars.
exactly. And I mean, real quick about the Christianity angle, how Christians are so against astrology, but the 3 wise men that came to find Jesus, they were astrologers. That's how they knew where Jesus was because they followed the stars. So
Literally,
that gets
exactly.
conveniently
Yeah,
overlooked.
yeah,
I did not know that, but that makes perfect sense.
yeah. It
And
was a Jupiter Saturn conjunction.
oh my God, you
It
guys,
wasn't seriously. I didn't know that.
No, yeah,
Wow.
it was a Jupiter Saturn conjunction in Pisces, and what that meant at the time was that the king of spirituality would be born. Like Pisces is the sign of the transition zone between the earthly and the spiritual, and they're like, oh, this is the king of spirituality is being born at this moment. Let's go find him. And yeah,
I didn't know.
I had
Oh God. Okay, I'm so glad that I've run into you and reconnected with Dana because I mean we go way back, and this
we
is so
go
fun to see
way
now.
back. It is wonderful to have you here. So yeah, Stephanie lives in Seattle as I do, and we we have been connected through music and fun for many years, though always running in the same circles, but like haven't carved out time for us to just sit down. But I've been a fan of your work and your husband's work forever. Your husband, David, Stephanie's husband, is an amazing musician and writer. Fun fact: played at our imaginary wedding reception and wrote the
Oh,
theme song for Three Imaginary Girls, like our a theme song. So we go way back, and I have been a fan of your work, your writing, your hilarious advocacy. Is that fair to say? Like, can we go way back and talk about Mars Hill Church? Because I think
oh
that was the
God.
first time.
oh yeah,
That's
So
where it
this
began,
that's where it
really.
began.
Yeah.
So Lawrence meets Stephanie. Stephanie meets everyone meets Stephanie.
hello.
Actually, before we jump into this, Stephanie, would you like to introduce yourself? Because I'm not even sure where to start. Mark Driscoll, Stuff Christian Culture Writes. But I would love for you to talk about the things that are at the forefront for you, how you'd
Oh
like to introduce
gosh.
yourself to the audience. No
Yeah,
pressure.
no, I always feel like other people could do this better because I'm just like, I don't know, I'm 50 and I'm an empty nester at this point and I work full time doing medical coding. I've done that for like 27 years, but I grew up an evangelical preacher's kid in the South, Arkansas and Texas is where I grew up, and got married, moved out here, and I was kind of deconstructing all along. I'm a double. My sun and moon are in Aquarius. My rising is Pisces. I have like triple stellium 12th house placements. Like, and I'm just saying that for your benefit. But I
I
just,
get it.
and so just so
I
you get
understand you.
a sense that like when I was little, I was like, what the fuck is going on? Like I had to go to church constantly. And I didn't have a problem with the idea of God and love, but I'm like, why aren't you people acting loving behind closed doors? That was my whole thing, that they couldn't reconcile it. And yeah, so I was just kind of ornery about it early on. And so then coming out here and kind of being on my own, I was really able to, I guess I didn't know that it was called deconstructing, but I guess that was what I was doing. So the fast forward to being in a group therapy session here in Seattle with women who went to Mars Hill Church, and um, it wasn't for Mars Hill women. And there was two women that would show up, and they were shaking, and they'd say, "We're not supposed to be here because we're members of this church called Mars Hill, and we signed a covenant, not even a contract, a covenant that said that you." One of the things it said is you cannot get counseling from anyone outside of Mars Hill. And they go, I just am so depressed. I started going to this church. It seemed cool, seemed nice. And then, they really were like, y'all need to get married. So I did. And then they're like, you need to quit your job and have babies. And so I did. And now I'm just like, I mean, these women were suffering. They were isolated and they had homicidal ideation. And, one of them did. But that, it can take all kinds of forms, like when you're desperate.
Yeah.
And they said, when I go to the leadership at Mars Hill, they tell me that I just need to pray more and submit more to my husband. And I'm just like, because this is protected health information that I couldn't talk about. But here I was seeing the seedy underbelly, like where the rubber meets the road. And I grew up in it also.
Right.
So it was very activating for me. And Twitter was sort of new at the time. So I created an account called Fake Driscoll. And during my commute into downtown Seattle, I would just like, I started listening to his sermon so I get a feel for like his voice. But I tweet stuff like, because his wife's name was Grace. And I tweet about Grace a lot because he loved to talk about Grace. He's like, well, this is one thing I tweeted. I said, tomorrow's Grace's weigh in, and I just could use your prayers because she's been hitting the treadmill. So I feel pretty good about the number we're going to see on the scale. But I just need y'all to pray. I've got her. Her. I weigh her every week, and please pray. And people are like, "Is this for?" Because it really did sound like him. And come to find out, someone reached out to me, and he goes, "I was at one of Grace's birthday parties recently." And Mark, in front of everyone, he's like, I've got some questions for you, Grace. Like, let's talk about your goals for the next year. What do you want to weigh 1 year from now? Like, so that was not a stretch, that sort of thing. Just hearing from women, like, this is what I do, this is what happens. I can't do that because this is what the church says. And I was just extremely activated by anything I heard from Mark Driscoll. And so I created Fake Driscoll, and Mars Hill, like within an hour, they emailed me. I don't know how they got my email address. It was creepy, but they're like, it was this huge legal document saying that I remember them saying, you are allowed to have this parody Twitter account, but it has to be absolutely clear it's a parody. And I go, it's called Fake Driscoll.
Right. What more do you need?
Oh my God. I should jump in and say, for those who don't know, Mars Hill Church, it was really big in the Three Imaginary Girls era. So like the aughts, I guess. I don't know what years its reign was in Seattle exactly, but it was like the worst of these kinds of churches that you can imagine, but dressed as this very hipster church.
Right.
The building was all black, and they had I never went to church there. You would know more than I would, Stephanie, but it was known for having a lot of hipsters and band guys. And
they would give you earplugs when you walked in. They're like, the music's really loud. Yeah. Like it was a show. Right. Yeah.
And so it did a lot of harm here, and it felt like just ingrained, like it was never going to go away. And I see two things happening in the chat. One is Ellie Leonard went there for 4 years. This was her church. She's weighing in. She's an amazing writer on Substack who has joined us here today. And we also have a very dear friend of the podcast named Melissa Corrigan. She was on Wednesday, and on her show, I was like, you need to meet Stephanie Drury, because she also grew up the adopted child of an evangelical leader in South Carolina, I think, and
wow.
was abused. She has all kinds of stories. You two definitely, we need to get you guys on together because your heads will explode. Maybe with Ellie, I don't know.
Yeah.
But I had to interrupt and say that the chat is all abuzz. And to give some context for how powerful Mars Hill was at the time. And they're gone now. Mark Driscoll, their leader.
Yeah.
Did you have a lot to do with that? Because in my mind, you did. You drove him out of Seattle.
I was told that that Mark couldn't, like, someone said, they emailed me and said, please keep me anonymous, but I was on the panel for Acts 29, which was this church network that Mark founded, and this person on the board said we had to ask him to resign because we couldn't withstand the social media onslaught anymore. He's like, so I just want you to know that you did it. Yeah, so that's what he told me. And thank you. But like
Amazing.
immediately I remember the stranger was like, we need a quote. What do you think about how Mark is leaving? I go, he's just gonna form another church. Like, and he did. He's down in Scottsdale doing the same thing. But I'm tormenting him from afar.
Good. And then when did Stuff Christian Culture come along? Was that alongside?
It kind of was about the same time, about the time I started therapy. For all, yeah. And I was on a road trip with my friends who are atheists, and I remember the election was happening, like John McCain, Barack Obama. So it was about 07, 08, and I remember them saying, "Why do Christians support McCain?" As a rational person would ask, and I'm like, "Oh, let me tell you exactly why." They're like, and we're on this huge road trip. They're like, "God, you know a lot about." I'm like, "Yeah, I guess I do. I need to start a blog." So everyone was blogging back then. So I started Stuff Christian Culture Likes, because there was a book called Stuff White People Like that was out just then, and you just like break down. Yeah. And so I was like, okay, I'm going to break down what little things that Christian culture has embraced and what they hold dear. And I remember thinking, I'm not going to call it Stuff Christians Like, because I don't have a problem with actual ancient Christianity. Like, I don't have a problem with the person of Jesus and what he taught. It's this culture around that they have absolutely twisted it. Yeah.
100%. That was actually one of my questions for you, was like, through all of your work, I can't quite tell. Are you still Christian? Are you religious? And do you practice in a denomination? Do you practice at home? Like, what's your current relationship with Christianity?
I am extremely drawn towards the person of Jesus. I'm extremely drawn to Mother Mary. Before the pandemic, I went to mass every morning before going into work. Like, I'm not Catholic. I could never fully officially convert, but I love going in that space. And probably because it was forbidden to me growing up. They're like, oh, Catholics are idolaters. They worship statues,
Right.
But I go in there because I would just like go in there and pray for people I saw at work, at the hospital. Just like horrible things would come through. I'm like, how do I deal with this? So I would just go in and like kind of give it over. I had a list of like just first names, and I would just like kind of cry. And then I dip the list in holy water and throw it away. And that would be my way of like, okay, this is off my hands now. And I just sent some energy for these people, for their healing and restoration, and for their family. And I remember noticing Mother Mary statues in there, and I'm like, you know what? I need a mom. And I would kind of start talking to her, and honest to God, energy started coming back. And I really love the concept of mother, our mother, and earth mother. The earth is our mother. I feel like it's all energy, and nothing is really separate. So I don't have a problem. I like to go into cathedrals when they're empty. When there's other people.
Me too.
When I get thrown off, I'm just like, ugh. So
it resonates a lot with me, Stephanie. So Dana and I were raised Jewish, but I've explored a lot of things, and
I'm indifferent.
it's interesting. As a gay dude, I've had Christians, say like, oh, you need to, find Jesus and develop. And I'm like, bro, I've done shamanic journeys where I like talk to Jesus. Like Jesus and I are tight, like we're friends. I think you need to talk to Jesus because I'm talking to him right now and he says you're wrong.
He thinks you're an asshole. Did you say
He
that?
says you're kind of a dick actually, and you're not listening to anything that he actually taught. So,
Oh my God.
Exactly. No, there's so much about Judaism I'm so curious about, and I love the concept of Shabbat. Like last fall I was host like kind of I called it youth group, which is like the evangelical youth program kind of stuff that we would go, let's go to youth group. I would host people here on a Friday night and I'd bake bread. Like it wasn't a holiday, it probably sucked, but we'd light candles and it was just something so like, oh God, just like the letdown and like this is
Yeah.
why one of the commandments is to rest, like take a day of rest. Like we need it, or the commandment says you're gonna die if you don't keep these commandments. Well, what's like the number one killer of people in America? Like stress, right? Like, we don't rest enough. So there's things like that that I think are beautiful, but I don't think they're confined to one faith tradition. And like you said, it's just so
Yeah.
important to parse out like what are people putting on these things so that they can manipulate other people with. Like why would a Christian have a problem with someone being gay? Jesus never talked about it. And if
never.
they go back to the Old Testament, that the verse would say don't lie with another man, like there's different interpretations for what lie with means, but it's also right next to the passage that says you shouldn't like wear two different fibers mixed together and shave the sides of your face. Like why are they picking yeah.
Yeah.
Stephanie, as you're talking, I'm like, as someone who is not religious, like in a traditional sense at all, I'm like, you've now named two traditions or things that you do that I'm like, God, that's beautiful. And I'm taking comfort in that. Like you talking about walking into the empty cathedral before work and writing down the people in the hospital who are either ill or problematic for some reason and dipping, like crying, letting it out, dipping it in holy water and letting it down, letting it go. Like, oh my God, that's so like, if that's what church is supposed to be for, like we could all use that.
Right.
And also, like as a Jewish person who has never celebrated Shabbat, like my family didn't do that growing up. I was always like, yeah, prayers, blah, blah, blah. But the idea of taking a moment of gratitude at the end of the week, lighting a candle and breaking bread, I'm like, yeah, I do that all the time. But
Yes. I mean,
but
I feel like
not
like
really
shows.
recognizing it. Yeah.
Yes, like what we would call worship in the church, like where you sing hymns, like going to a show where you're so happy, it's like the greatest thing ever. It's transcendent to listen to live music. I'm
Yes.
like, this is
Yes.
what they're talking about.
Right.
And they're trying to artificially create it in this sanitized environment where they also are like the thought police. I'm just like, the world is
No.
church. Everything's holy. Trees, nature, like that's the true cathedral. People, relationships. This is what we're not
Oh
separate
my
from
God.
it.
Right. Do you remember, not too long ago, a couple
Mm.
months ago, when they like whatever Notre Dame, they had the big
Yes.
ceremony and they like christened the organ or whatever you call it, like the first sound, the first official playing of the organ. Like that moment, I was weeping as I was watching that because it was really beautiful and something was really happening. And it was almost regardless of the people, because fucking Donald Trump was there, like he didn't sanctify that place, but like that organ being played. Yeah, like, there's something about music and churches and the spaces and yeah, I feel like this is what spirituality is really about, and that the things that get warped into, official Christianity and Judaism are people trying to control us because they think there's a particular way that things need to be done. And really, honestly, when you look at most religion, it's about finding your personal relationship with spirit and honoring that connection in whatever way feels best for you, you know? So
All the way.
Yeah, I'm clapping along with all of this. Wow. So I'm going to shift the topic a little bit here because I know from the subtitle of your publication on Substack and from following you that you were raised evangelical. And when you expressed serious enough doubts that you were ready to leave the church, you lost your literal family, your family of origin.
Yes.
And
That, that
yeah.
happened. The way that came about was when I started therapy. I was
Mm.
I was realizing a lot of stuff with my family. I had tiny kids at the time. I had a
Okay.
3-year-old and an infant, and I didn't know which phone conversation with my mom would leave me just a dish rag crying on the floor. But I
Yeah.
didn't know any other way. And David was like, "Oh my God, like, why does she talk to you this way?" And I'm like, I don't know what else
Isn't
to
this
do. Like,
normal?
this is just, yeah, it just, you just never know when it's going to happen. But like my son, my 3-year-old would be patting me and go, "Don't cry, mommy. It's okay." And I had an infant, and I was like, I'm creating a little codependent here. Like, I need to get some help. And I was able to find a therapist. I'm so grateful. I know there's a lot of bad therapy out there, but I was able, by some stroke of luck, to find a therapist who understood spiritual abuse and just the particular flavor in evangelicalism. They understood personality disorders and physical abuse, like all of that. And this person probably saved my life. It was really wonderful. She went to the Seattle School of Theology and Psychology here in Seattle, and
Oh, I
that
don't know that school.
yeah, it was founded by this guy named Dan Allender, and he's a believer. Like he's a Presbyterian or something, but he's also a doctor of psychology, and he
Wow.
is a huge advocate for abuse survivors. And he's very much he's written a couple books about surviving abuse and what it looks like. And he's like, this woman trained with him, and she was able to say, you need to set boundaries with your parents. I'm like, but I've heard the word boundaries. What is that? What does that
What does
look
that
like?
mean?
And she says, if you can tell your parents, I want to have a relationship with you. And in order to do that, I can't be afraid you're going to shame me. And I go, all I ask is that you don't criticize my hair, how I look, something I did in 1989. Like, I just didn't know what direction it was going to come from. Don't tell me, don't send a message for me to tell one of my siblings this thing, go talk to them yourself. Like, I'm just like, oh my God, you can do that. So she's going to get so mad. She's like, yeah, she will. She's like, but you tell her, like, if you break this boundary, I'm not going to talk to you for another 2 months. Like, I'll just hang up. I'll say, okay, talk to you in 2 months. And so did that, and immediately she violated the boundary, and I'm like, 2 months, and it was like the best 2 months of my life. Like, I was free, and I didn't have to worry.
No.
And but every time there was no repair, like, they just immediately would violate the boundary to show me who was boss. And so I'm going somewhere with this. The way this all culminated in a disowning was David and I, like, we were attending a Presbyterian church at the time, and the pastor knew my parents, and he emailed them and CC'd me and David on it, and was like, "Hey, could I? What would it be all right if I mediated between all of y'all the next time you're in Seattle? Like, we could sit down and talk about whatever the issues are." And my parents' response to that was, "It is such a shame that Stephanie has made this decision, and we're never going to see her again. And we're not going to know our grandchildren, and that she has made this decision." And he wrote back, he's like, "That's not what I said."
Right. That wasn't
Oh
what I
my
said.
God. Wait,
But
did the
then, like, my brother and
did
sister, I only have 2 other siblings, but, they eventually got into therapy and asked my parents to go to therapy with them, and my parents did the same thing to both my brother and my sister. So this is like a systemic
oh,
thing where they just didn't want to address stuff,
It
and
reminded me. Sorry, I'm so sorry to
I'm
interrupt.
done. No, go on.
So it reminded me of the article that you wrote about spanking, right? Where that scene where your mom was spanking you so that you would go to bed, and you were
yes.
weeping and she was weeping, and she just kept spanking and you kept saying no,
Yeah.
right? Like, it's that same thing, that constant, like, I'm going to keep punishing you until you comply. And she literally did that to the point that it ended your relationship with her. That's
Yeah. And they, like, even recent, because that was exactly 20 years ago, because our daughter's 20 now. And that was when that happened. And I look back now, I'll give context that when they disowned me, I kind of blacked out. And I remember kicking a hole in the wall. Like, I was lying on the bed. I remember just, like, kind of freaking out. And there was like a hole in the sheetrock from where my heel went into it, kind of thing. And I was just Like, but then my next memory is that my he's teary. He's like, what is happening? And I'm like, I think that I am experiencing a grief response because I've had enough therapy at that point. I could name it. And,
Oh,
but I mean that I look back now, and as painful as it was, that is how I'm breaking the cycle. That was the first like huge break where my kids, honest to God, they're 23 and 20 now, and I say this all the time, but they don't deal with depression and anxiety the way I did. They don't have to worry about telling us like where they are on the sexuality or gender spectrum. They don't have to worry, like they don't get in trouble. Like we just talk with them about stuff. And I'm able to kind of reparent my little self while I am doing this stuff to them. And it's so incredible. It's healing all around. And so I can say 20 years on that I'm actually super grateful for this, because it was kind of a genesis of something new and beautiful. Like I could kind of bury that. And it makes me think of Easter. Like the kids are kind of like, we took them to church a little bit growing up, but they don't really know the Bible. But what they do know is love and forgiveness and grace and safety, and that they're always welcome here. And they can't do anything that would ever cause us to be like, you're on the outs with us type of thing. But every Easter, they're always like, oh, Mom, why do you get emotional about Easter? Do you really believe Jesus was raised from the dead? And I'm like, it's kind of beside the point whether he was or not, because the whole thing, what's important is myth. Like every culture has myth. And what the message of Easter is that no matter how dark and tragic something could be, there is possibility of something even better. Like there's renewal, there's rebirth. Like that's always a possibility. So that's where I
you did that.
with Christianity.
You did that for your kids. You were reborn when I mean, first I have to pause and say, like, I'm so sorry that your family of origin did that to you. I can't fathom letting one kid go. They let all three kids go. Like to hold your subtitle of I mean, I'm going to paraphrase you, but it's like when your parents love evangelicalism more than they love you. And how? I say this when it comes to parenting gender nonconforming kids, and really to everything. Like your job as a parent is unconditional love, first and foremost. And how is it that something like Christianity that's supposed to preach love gets that wrong? Like just at the core of it all, how could they love anything more than their kids and knowing their grandkids? And like how much courage it took for you to break that off. That is a rebirth. That's such a huge burst of courage that's what it is. That's rebirth. Sorry, I'll be quiet now, but I'm floored that you went through that. It makes my heart ache for your parents.
You know what?
Yeah.
That's exactly it. Because I was very angry and resentful for a really long time. And I'm like, how do I get past this? How do I get past this? And my therapists were just like, you just have to feel it. They go, and I'm like, I'm never going to stop crying. I used to never cry. And I started therapy and I couldn't stop crying. And they go, you have years of tears to cry. I'm like, I feel like, because I was always so afraid to feel a vulnerable emotion, because that was trained out of me. Like that was the Dobson evangelical approach, was like, you don't feel anything. And honest to God, my parents were that way too. They grew up in the 50s with like super abusive Southern military type parents. And, they're like wounded children. So when they found Jesus and the Jesus movement, I mean, it's cult mentality where they're like, oh, here's a family that talks about love. But they didn't have the basic tools to even love themselves. So they could not pass that on. Like they don't have grace for themselves. They just never were given that. So I've been doing this exercise recently where I picture, it's like a little thought exercise, where I imagine that I'm like with my dad when he's like 2 or 3 and he's crying and he's sad, and he's alone. And I go to him and I'm like, I really imagine like comforting him, and then he calms down and I put him in my heart. The same thing with my mom at the same age. I put them in my heart together, and I keep and I put them in there with my child self, where all of our I have their faces so they can like look up at me and I can look, like this is all like in my imagination, but it feels very healing that I can sit,
Yeah, it's
we're just
beautiful.
dealing with toddlers here, like these grown toddlers with a lot of money and political influence, but they're toddlers. And that has done so much to heal whatever kind of lingering resentment I might have had towards them.
You know, we talk a lot about not passing on generational trauma here. Like it's a thing that I'm really interested in, and I kind of feel, I've at the age of 55 come to believe that our entire purpose in this lifetime, each of us, is to heal our generational trauma and not pass it on to our kids or nieces or nephews or whoever, right? Like protect the kids at all costs. And and what you are doing, what you've done is you've done that. You know, you've prevented the generational trauma that your parents passed down to you from going to your kids. And that's incredible. That's incredible work. And it's so fucking hard.
It is, but it's also like the other way is hard too.
Right. Right. Yeah. Raising broken people would also be hard, right?
Yeah. And anyone can do it. Like seriously, anyone can do it. But I think I couldn't have done it though without like community support. I was able to find you don't really need that many people. You only really need like a couple of really good friends or people who might be passing through your life and are like, hey, I get it. And I was, I feel like I've gleaned from so many, mother and sister and father figures. And I'm so, so grateful for that. But my big thing with all of this is like, anyone can do it. It's absolutely possible. And that's why I have my Substack, because it's so hard to find a therapist who understands this kind of trauma that you can fucking afford.
Right.
Mine is $3 a minute. And my insurance I have good insurance. It does not cover any of it. I've written letters. They will not cover it. I know it's awful. And I'm like, okay, I can get you down to one session a month, I guess, right now. And I'm going to like have my Substack for $5 a month for anyone who like is on a similar journey and needs to just, all it takes is knowing you're not alone, right?
Right. I'm grabbing your Substack right now so that anyone who needs it in the chat, I mean, they can click through too, but I want to have it in here for when we do the recap. Hold on one second, multitasking. James Dobson just died, as you know, and I started listening to your podcast about this. And there's a part very much like what Lawrence just described, where your young parents were so influenced by Dobson and went to like a seminar or some kind of training and came home with like, we need to beat the humanity, beat the will. That was the word you used, the will out of my child. And
break your will. Yeah.
Break your will. And that you had asked your mom about it as an adult, the spanking, a young adult, and that she was like, well, yeah, I had to break your will. I guess that's not really a question. It's again more of a statement, but like how Lawrence and I have this theory that Gen X is a fulcrum generation in so many ways. And I do feel like we don't get the credit for being the ones who were like, that's not how we parent. But I know so many people, myself included, who are parenting very differently than we were raised. Now, my example is nothing like yours, to be clear. But like, how do you think? I'm trying to think like big picture, culturally, moment in time. Why was it then that there were so many of us who were like, not now? Is it because women came into so many freedoms that we weren't trapped at home? Is it because we had the power to travel to other cities and see other forms of existing other than our narrow upbringings? Like, do you have any theories on like how and why our generation is in a lot of ways broken this cycle of parenting?
Oh, I've got so many theories about everything.
I had a feeling you might.
I really feel like this stuff is cyclical. Like, because this woman who teaches history at SPU of all places, she was telling me, she goes, she goes, people don't know about this, but in the pioneer times, like Laura Ingalls Wilder time, men had such a huge role in the house and raising the children, and the women did so much in the fields. And people think like, oh, back home, like all the men did the outdoors work and women stayed indoors. She's like, no, it really was not like that. And she goes, it was very much there. It was it had way more matriarchy vibes, like maybe not fully, but like it's definitely swung to the patriarchy. I think due to the workforce. I think, well, suffrage in the 1920s, but it's all just a timeline. Technology, like you said, seeing more women in the workforce. I mean, there's always huge advances being made, but I think I was still alive. I was born in 1975, and when women couldn't, I wasn't still alive. I was just newly alive when women still weren't allowed to have a checking account without their husband, like that sort of thing. Like that was in my lifetime. And so now, like, the pendulum always swings no matter what it is, right? And now they're trying to take these really basic rights that we fought so hard for away from all people who aren't white, straight cis males, right? So I just kind of think it's just, if you zoom way out, it's like, here we go again. And this is what's keeping me sane, is to think like it's a huge spectrum, like.
Yeah, it will swing back one day. The hope
I love
is,
what you say about the fulcrum generation, though, because there's something special about Gen X. Like, we're mouthier in a new way. I don't know. I feel like MTV had a lot to do with that for me, which I was not allowed to watch, and it was all on the sly. But that, like, exposed me. Sassy Magazine, saved my life. And James Dobson got it shut down in 1994. He was responsible for that.
I just learned that when he died, because I follow Jane Pratt now on Substack.
Jane Pratt, I know. She was amazing. She was huge for me.
Yes, she's still amazing. She's still out there doing her thing. Had no idea James Dobson had a part of that. I mentioned Melissa Corrigan earlier. We really need to get you two together. But Lawrence, I'm thinking about our conversation on Wednesday. She was talking about, I'm forgetting which religious leader it was now, but that when the soldiers returned from World War II, these very young men, very traumatized by what they'd seen, that there was a conscious rebranding of Christianity into this very like macho, wounded.
I think
Billy Graham.
Yeah.
And I'm like,
he was worshipped. My parents worshipped him, and my in-laws worshipped him.
And maybe that's where that like she was talking about how this is the origin of this, like the theme was Christian nationalism, because she's written a lot about that, and kind of the rise of power, the multi-generational rise to power that they've had, this like very long-term strategy, but that it started post World War II, and that's when it became like Jesus says it's okay to have a lot of money and be, this strong, tough guy, and reframing away from any kind of matriarchal influence. I think he walked so Dobson could fly, and take more root in parenting. How does it feel knowing that this person who you never met but who did so much harm to your childhood and life has passed?
It's so interesting. I mean, I think I wrote this in my Substack because a couple people were like, "Aren't you so happy?" And I'm like, kind of like when Driscoll got forced to resign. I'm like, he's just going to do it again. The fall of any kind of monarch in this way has never stopped. If anything, they're going to glorify his ideology. And my husband still follows a lot of like Christian people that he grew up with, and I don't. But he's seen all these people who are like, they are deifying Dobson over there.
Of course.
And yeah, so I'm like, oh no, it's so great that he's dead. There's just like new people like him born all the time. But honestly, I read a lot of near death experience NDE accounts, and I'm kind of, I'm just curious about that, and I'll like listen to accounts of those on podcasts sometimes, and they all say that they're like, when I left my body, I suddenly had so much perspective. And some people will say they had a life review where they are able to see scenes from their life in which they are able to experience the emotions of the other person in interactions. One woman said that her mother was abusing her, but when she was, it's a memory that had haunted her entire life, had very deep effect on her during her lifetime. But when she was watching it during her life review, she felt her mother's emotions. She was able to like see the context from her mother's actions. And she's like, when I returned to my body, it was a different person. And so that's what came to mind for me when I heard that he had died. I thought, I hope it's possible that he is somewhere where he can see the effects that he had and feel some remorse or compassion in some way. That's how I felt.
Wow. That's a really compassionate way to think about it. And honestly, pretty forgiving considering the impact that he had on your life overall.
But, it's like I said, I'm grateful for it. If I had not been in such an extreme position, like to be disowned, I really think I would have stayed and kind of been like one of those sheeple who are like, oh, I'm just kind of on this path because this is how I was raised. And yeah, it's good. Jesus is good, So I think the extreme badness created, speaking of energy again, it's all like it creates it fills the void
Totally.
Yeah.
of of a greater expansion for possibility of good. Like another thing I learned in therapy that has proven so true is that when you let yourself feel sadness and vulnerability and anger and lean into your depression, that is carving out space emotionally for you to feel more happiness and joy and peace. Like you're just creating emotional capacity. So you are living like a fuller life by leaning into your sadness. And that's what I love about the Psalms are the prayer book of Israel, and there's half of them are like, I hate you, God, you suck. Why am I alive? And I love that about Judaism is that they're like, yeah, they're like, they gnash their teeth and they're angsty and they're mad. I love it because it's so human. And like who's more hilarious and fun, like who I freaking love people who are Jewish because they're so connected to themselves. And I feel like evangelicals, we were taught to ignore our and mistrust our intuition. It's
Yeah.
because they wanted to break our will and control us that way. So I think that evangelicals feel like, people who've escaped, are in a cult or have escaped one, we're still like all kind of, cracked out a little bit. But, when you're with someone who's like, that doesn't sit well with me, like who could trust themselves, it's like, there's nothing better.
Honestly, I look at the Old Testament, which is of course the Jewish Bible, and I'm just like, this guy God, like what an asshole,
I know.
sacrifice my firstborn son. Are you fucking kidding me? Like, you know what? I'll pass. I don't want to be monotheistic so bad that I'm gonna sacrifice my child for you. Fuck that.
Right?
How
But they're, and then they're like, but the angel stopped him. I'm like,
Right.
that's not good enough for me. I don't know about
Yeah.
that.
Is there an apology? I feel like there should be some kind of massive apology. Like,
Yeah.
Oh
I
my
was having a
God.
really
Kid.
bad day and you pushed some of my buttons and I shouldn't have done that.
Right. My sleep's all off.
Right. My
You
sleep
know,
is off.
I
I'm trying to drink less coffee and it's just not going very well.
I'm trying to think of like angry Jewish songs, and I can't think of any, but I think I can only think of songs in Hebrew. And they didn't
Mhm.
teach us how to translate, only to transliterate
Right.
Hebrew so that we could like read our bat mitzvah portions, but didn't know what we were saying. So I'm like, huh, I can't think of, I'm glad to hear that maybe they were angry.
Oh, they're
Is
so
that
mad.
they're
They were
so
mad.
mad?
They're in the desert for 40 years. Like they're
Yeah.
pissed,
Yeah.
and they're like, they built the golden
Yeah.
calf because they were like pissed. I love that.
True. You know, to me, it's always come off as like, oh, we always are the ones who are suffering, quiet
Yeah, no, I love that
resignation.
because Christian evangelicals are like, oh, let's focus on what's good. And I'm like, that's toxic positivity is what that is.
Right. Right. Yeah. Well,
Give me someone who can complain. Give me Larry David,
Oh
I
my
don't
God.
know how problematic he is, but I'm sure he's done something new lately. But I do appreciate, just his crankiness.
there's the joke about Jewish holidays that they're essentially all like, oh, everybody hates us. They all tried to kill us. It didn't work. Let's eat.
Love it.
You're not wrong, actually. Yeah, Passover, Hanukkah,
Right.
maybe not
Oh, life is
Sukkot.
hard. Everybody hates us.
Oh
Ugh.
yeah, Purim.
Let's eat.
Purim was like that too.
Right.
Sukkot, that's just celebrating the harvest. I think that one was neutral.
Right. That's the like let's eat holiday. That one. They're all that in some varying degree to greater or lesser
Right.
degrees. The coat is the one that's like 98% let's eat.
Is that where you build the little huts outside?
Yes.
Like, I
The
freaking
chuppah.
love that. It has so much meaning. Like, it's so rooted in tradition. And I think that's fucking cool.
We
That's a
never did it.
holiday.
In
I
Hebrew
said
school,
this,
we did.
yeah, only that one. I continue to kind of say, like, the more I learn about sort of Jewish spiritual traditions, like, so keeping kosher, you keep two different sets of plates and whatever, and there has to be a way to like clean them, right? Like people weren't so rich that they could just throw away one set of plates, right? So I was curious, like if something got contaminated, what do you do with it? Well, it turns out you go bury it in the earth at a new moon, and then you let it be there for a full moon cycle, and then you dig it up again, right? And it's like, oh, so it's shamanism, it's magic,
It
basically.
is.
Like they just, they just codified it in the Torah and said, like, this is our religion, but it's really just shamanism.
Oh God, absolutely. Like my friend Melanie, who I do the Rewiring Religion podcast with, we get comments because she's very into astrology, and Christians will come up, or people who are raised Christian will come over and be like, "You guys are discussing witchcraft when you're discussing astrology," and she goes, "Prayer is witchcraft." That's
Right.
just her response. I'm like, right,
Right?
that's what it
Yes.
is.
You're right. The whole thing, like a Catholic ceremony, like they do the saging, they've got the incense censer and they sage the whole place and then they
Holy
chant and
water.
sing.
They have different oils for different types of blessings.
Exactly.
Like, and
Light
they lock them
candles.
down because that shit is powerful and they don't want you to get it,
Right, exactly. They're like, no, this is our secret sauce. No, you can't do this.
Yeah, and like here's my big act of rebellion as an unbaptized Catholic is I love going up and receiving communion, even though I'm not a baptized Catholic. Like that is so against the rules. You are not, you're supposed to go through all blah, blah, blah. And that's gatekeeping, assholes. Jesus never said that. You give me that body and blood, like, fuck you. Who are you to say that I can't?
Give me that body of Christ.
Yeah, give that to me. But like, I'll be up there and I'll see other people say like, oh, can I have an extra Eucharist wafer for my mother? She's sick. She can't be. And they're like, oh, we can't be giving that out because that's how sacred it is. They're like, you could do something bad. Like I've gone on Reddit and they're like, oh yeah, Satanists use these and witches use them in rituals because they're consecrated. They're so powerful. So I'm just like, guys, it's all energy. That's like all this is.
Totally.
I want to go get one and not just walk up and be like, thank you.
I don't know what to do exactly. So I'm kind of like, am I doing this? I'm afraid that there's going to be a tell. And
Right.
Right. Your horns will sprout all of a sudden. And they'll be like, she's a witch. Get her.
But there's something, okay, when they, and I don't know if you've been to Catholic Mass, like I just, peek, I drop in the back and peek, but I kind of have come to realize that they ring a bell. Well, at least at St. James downtown, like when they consecrate, they'll like raise up the cup of wine and they'll ring a bell. And apparently that's when the Holy Spirit like descends into the wine, and then they hold up the host, the bread, whatever, and they ring a bell. And that's when Jesus comes in and the priest will bow. And I weep. There's something about that moment that just I'm overcome. And makes me feel like the spirit is here. The spirit of love is here.
Right.
There's something to that. But it doesn't have to be in, and I'm getting chills thinking about it. And I also think chills are like a presence of the spirit. But you get those at concerts. You get those with your kids. You get those when you're watching Real Housewives, when there's nothing like, or I do.
Really profound moments.
When someone gets, the truth told to them, I'm like, oh, chills, like finally.
Right.
But like when there's, the word holy that just comes to mind, like it's everywhere, so it's where you find it. And this gatekeeping is the problem, addiction to certainty, addiction to Christian culture, the culture around, just dictating how people should live beyond embracing them and being curious about them and just like sitting with them. Let's break bread. I'm gonna make homemade bread. Y'all come over and gonna light candles and we're just gonna talk and drink a bunch of wine. And
oh my God,
I'm in.
There's nothing better. Yeah.
Next time Lawrence is in town,
Next
we're
time
totally
I'm in
doing
Seattle,
that.
I'm 100% in. Yes.
Where are you right now?
So I lived in Seattle for 30 years. I'm in Indiana now. My
Okay.
family is out here in Fort Wayne, and
Hmm.
my mom is 84, getting older. I promised I would move back when she got to
Aw,
this age, so I'm here for now. It's a
that's
little weird
lovely.
being in a red
Yeah.
state, but here
Yeah.
I am.
Yeah.
Fortunately, they're screaming liberals. Like my family, like we're the only people
Lucky.
who agree on all things political as a family, and we can still yell at each other over dinner about, like who believes it more vehemently kind of thing.
Can I come over? That sounds
Absolutely.
amazing.
Oh God. Yeah, you'd fit right in.
Oh my
Aw.
God, I love Lawrence's mom. Jane is awesome.
Yeah.
Aw.
We're
Tell her hi.
kind of coming to the end, Stephanie. Unfortunately, I I think we have to ask our question, Dana.
We do, because Stephanie's going to have a great answer on the fly. We always ask our guests, what do you think is the most Gen X song of all time? There are no right or wrong answers.
Right.
Well, sort of. You will have no right or wrong answer.
Self-Esteem by The Offspring?
Oh,
Because it's
okay.
self-deprecating in a way that was like everyone freaked
Yeah.
out for that song. Everyone has a response to that song. That was
Yeah.
like 94, I want to say.
Yeah. Yeah. It's so interesting. You're 5 years younger than us, and we've had a couple other people who are like Gen X, but just like 5 years younger than us,
Younger Gen X.
who
Yeah.
skew to 90s answers, right? Whereas Dana and I skew to 80s answers.
I don't think
So,
the 80s and Gen X, but it totally is, right?
Yeah.
If we're gonna go 80s, Video Killed the Radio Star is
that's a great answer too, right? They're
okay.
not wrong answers.
Okay.
Right. It's a defining song that so when Lawrence and I first started talking about asking people this when we were launching our podcast, that I was like, okay, but it has to be a song that Gen X responds to uniquely. Because like half the people who come on say Smells Like Teen Spirit, which fair, like anthemically kind of shape.
It's kind of obvious though.
Right.
It is.
Exactly. Right. It's
Exactly.
the obvious answer.
And like that song means so much to younger people too. Like that song has continued to have such an influence where I'm like, if you hear Tainted Love and you're Gen X, like these like receptors go off in your brain where you're like, oh my God, the song. Or Don't You
I
Forget
perk
About
up
Me. Yeah.
with the thought of Tainted Love, but with
Right?
Smells Like Teen Spirit, there's a little bit of a weight on me.
Yeah.
I don't know why that is.
It's because we're from Seattle and we're like, okay.
All right.
Yes, grunge, Nirvana. They changed the world. We know. But I never thought about the Offspring. There's that whole era of like, I'm a loser, baby. I'm a creep. I have no
Yeah, I feel like
self-esteem.
that ushered in, well, Beck,
That's the
Beck
trilogy.
Loser. Oh, that's another good one because Creep is all very, I feel like it's so Gen X to be like, I suck. Like, I feel it. Am I right? I could be totally wrong about this, but
No,
I just
for
don't.
sure.
Okay. I feel like that's what makes it Gen X. So I think that's why I went with that.
I never
The
thought about those
self-effacing
songs.
flavor.
Yeah, being like the trilogy of that like loser ethos, that slacker loser, like it's cool to say that you suck, which is
That's so Gen X
pretty,
to me.
it is so Gen X. I love it. I've loved having you on the show. It's been awesome. I don't think I've told you this. I finally met your daughter a month or two ago. I've watched her grow up on Facebook, but she was at work. I don't want to out where she was working this
at
summer.
the vintage store?
Oh. Yes. And I walked in and I was like, oh my gosh, I know you. I called her by name. And I did that thing that has happened to my kids many times of like, I've watched you grow up on Facebook. And she was so lovely and gracious and just so cool too. Like I feel like there's a Gen Z, Gen X connection. And
yes.
of like,
well, she says, I wish I grew up Gen X. Like I hate having the internet. My friends are always on their phones. I wish that I had a landline, she's like that.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. She was so poised and cool. And you're doing a great job. No surprise to me at all. Yes, she was talking to my eldest about college because, she told me where she went. And
God, well, let's all get together for real. And Lawrence,
would
when
love
are you
that.
next going to be in Seattle?
I still need to figure it out. Sometime soon. My boyfriend is in Seattle, so I make it back on a regular basis.
Okay, well, let's at least get coffee. Yeah,
Absolutely.
I love this
Yes.
so much. I love you guys.
Yeah,
Thank
Oh,
you for
gotta
having me
come
on.
back on at some point in the future. I
Yeah,
feel like we've got 100 other things we could talk to you about.
Yeah.
totally,
And I'm
forever.
completely serious about getting you on with Melissa, because I think your two minds together would like
Oh,
blow up the world in the best of ways.
I can't
And
wait.
and
No,
and
I've been
Ellie Leonard
asking,
too.
like,
Yeah.
I need more people there in my tribe, so this is great. I didn't mean to make a
Yeah.
Jewish reference with tribe, but
No, I mean
No.
for real. It's good. Yeah.
totally.
Oh
Okay,
my gosh.
thank
Well,
you.
thank you all for joining us. It's been such a great chat. Thank you, Stephanie. I hope
Thanks,
everyone has a
Stephanie.
great rest of your weekend. Love
Happy
you, mean
long weekend,
it.
everybody. Oh, we're not going to be
Bye.
here on Monday. We love you. Mean it.
Oh
Bye.
yeah, we're not going to be here Monday. Happy Labor Day.
Happy Labor Day. Bye.